Okay, I'm pulling up the list of something that I need. Welcome everybody to the Town Board Work Session. Today is Wednesday, June 20, 2018. We have a lot of representatives from Con Ed here tonight, and thank you all for joining us.
You're welcome.
I have a list here of, everybody I guess can introduce themselves.
That's probably a good idea.
So why don't we go around the table. I'll start just with myself and then we'll shoot around and Rob Greenson, Town Supervisor.
Lisa Katz, Deputy Supervisor. Ivy Poole, Town Board Member.
Jill Shapiro, Town Administrator.
Suzanne Cavic, Chair, Community Preparedness Committee.
Michael Jones Bay, Con Edison.
Kevin Bradley, Con Edison.
Jerry Morshell, Town of Newcastle, I'm sorry.
Jerry.
Jumping the gun there.
I'm telling you.
Jane Solnick, I'm with Con Edison, I'm Director of Regional Community Affairs specifically for Westchester. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Jerry Morshell, Commissioner of Public Works, Town of Newcastle.
Reese DeBeal, Emergency Preparedness. I'm one of the new administrators for the Municipal Liaison Program.
Carlos Morello, I'm with Con Edison also, engineering.
Joe Solomon, Con Edison, General Manager.
Good evening, Nick Ward Willis with King Bean Town Attorney.
Jeremy Saland, Town Councilman.
So Jane, I'll just give you a little bit, when we have these municipal calls in the middle of these storms and these calls with, how many municipalities, I don't know.
39.
39.
But who's counting?
And everybody's angry, and Jane is the one who is dealing with all those people. It's tough, and you do a really good job handling it.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
So, thank you all for coming.
So we wanted to come, we've had some discussions besides, since the event, but we are reaching out to all the municipalities and wanted to come and speak to you specifically because we've worked together and we want to continue to work together. We're working on a lot of stuff we know right now as we're speaking here, but we're always looking to improve. We know there's improvements to be made from the last event, so we want to hear from your side because it's important, and just how we can work together and possible things that we can do to improve ourselves. So we really want to hear from your side as well.
Okay, well, Ivy is the town board liaison to our community preparedness committee, and Suzanne is the chair of the committee. So they've done a lot of work compiling a lot of information. I know you also work with Assemblyman Buchwald on his task force. Is it cool?
Yep.
So.
I'm County Executive Latimer. Yeah, you want me to jump in or?
Yeah, that was your introduction.
Okay, so in the aftermath of the storm event, we held sort of a kind of a debriefing with town residents here, and invited some of our fellow local electeds to that. And we also did sort of a survey of folks and had them kind of provide us with feedback via email and social media and whatnot. And really did a pretty extensive sort of listening tour, as it were, to kind of try to figure out where the primary issues were. But then, we're very action oriented, so we don't want to spend a lot of time dwelling on kind of what the issues were. I think we all know them. We all sat on those calls. We all heard the same kind of issues over and over. Really where we wanted to focus was trying to think about, where are the areas for improvement. I would want you to know that we're not only asking for Con Ed to make improvements, we're also looking at the county, we're looking at the state, and we're looking at ourselves at ways that we here can better be sort of prepared for the next storm event. So, with that said, I'm kind of looking back at some of the notes that we've taken, but, some of the areas that we wanted to talk with you all about is whether, and I'm in no particular order, the first thing was around the question of burying utility lines and whether there has been any progress on that or any further thinking on that. So some of the feedback that we heard from some of our fellow colleagues in other municipalities, understanding the exorbitant cost to municipalities of trying to take on those kinds of projects. Has there been any sort of thinking at Con Ed about doing sort of a cost benefit analysis of what that would cost versus the cost of responding to these kinds of storm events? So understanding it's a huge undertaking, it's a huge cost, it's also a huge cost to do this and have to, sort of come back from these kinds of events. So, there's a question there. We've also been talking about the mutual aid process. And so, is there an opportunity for us to ensure that there is sufficient mutual aid on standby and ready to go prior to a storm event. But then also, we're very interested in some of the ideas that have been put forward around whether it would be possible to bring mutual aid folks in without having to have them drive their trucks. So, part of the delay is that once you make that phone call, hey, we need you from, Canada, or we need you from North Carolina, it then takes them a certain number of days to be able to get here. So is there a way for us to have equipment that they can, be able to utilize and service with once they show up on site here? One of the things that we've talked about as a town board is the need to replace dangerous poles. So, looking at where we have double poles in town or where we have poles that are cracked or leaning, that's an area that still continues to be a concern for us today. I still have folks who are reaching out to me to tell me about where poles are dangerously, sort of leaning or look like they're about to fall over. So I think that's something that sort of hopefully we can start reasonably quickly and as an ongoing sort of project for us to work on together. The identification of those locations is something we can assist with and we certainly know about, and we hope to be able to partner with you on that. Again, similarly, the need to constantly be looking for where there's dangerous trees, right? So in the tree trimming activities, this is something I know you're hearing about from a lot of towns. And then, we're very interested in the technology piece as well. So one of the big learnings that I had when I came to the Con Ed debriefing that you held back in April was the issues that you had with the outage management system. And one of the things I'm really interested in learning about is how you're shoring up that system, or whether that system needs to be replaced or replatformed, stress tested, in order to make sure that we don't have similar technology issues. One of the frustrations we heard from a lot of our residents is people who are calling in and then, they're getting a text back saying, hey, your power's back on, but it's not back on. Or people like me who are getting a text saying, hey, your power's back on, but they never lost power in the first place. And, my understanding is all of that is driven by that outage management system. So how do we make sure that the backbone under which all of these operations lie is strong enough to see us through the future? And then looking at things like, can we install GPS in our trucks in order to be able to know where the trucks are located? So, Michael did such a fabulous job for our town, but one of the frustrations that I think we shared was not always knowing where the crews were located, even when they'd gotten to our town. And so making sure that we have sort of a bird's eye view into where the crews are from one town to the next. And we're very excited to learn more about the progress that's being made on the smart meters front too, which I think is an exciting development for all of us. I'll stop there because I'm sure you guys have more to add to that.
No, so that was pretty much it. There was some stuff that the town could do, well, not
Right.
better or just whatever, but I think that you hit the Con Ed points.
Okay, you're welcome to jump in at any time. So, needless to say, we've been going around a lot, and as you said, a lot of what you're bringing up is what United Westchester has presented to us at this point. In regards to just starting off first with our systems, and there was a glitch in the system, and I think you were at the meeting that we were explaining that there was a glitch in the system, and a lot of things are feeding into that damage assessment. A lot of different sources are feeding into that, and that's what triggered the outage map that's on the external site that was feeding people wrong information.
Right.
So as you very well may know, it was actually turned off at one point because of that. Our system has been set up that, because at this point, before smart meters, you have to call and tell us that you're out, right? So all of you on this side of the table call us, and this side of the table doesn't. But when we look at our system, we can predict that those people are out along with you by the way they're fed, their services are fed. So we have used that predictive platform. Well, when the glitch hit, that predictive platform was exasperating how many, and then people were getting missed calls, and the glitch itself was sending out calls that it shouldn't have been sending anyway. That was all pulled back and was done manually. There has been a lot of work done on that, that's continuing to be done on that, to take care of it, and I believe, from what I understand, I'm not on the technology side, but I think that they've got a handle on what they're doing with that. I don't know if you have any more to add on that, Joe, but that's what I understand. We are definitely progressing. We apologize that happened. Unfortunately, when people are getting those messages, they're frustrated to begin with for being out of power. Now you're that much more frustrated. So that just elevated that whole frustration for every customer. And when it happens in an event like that, it's difficult. It's one thing if it was an event that there was 500 people out and it went awry at that point. But during a large event like that, the March storms were, it adds a lot of frustration to people. So that is being seriously looked at, and some stuff has been taken care of already.
I would love to see just what those steps were that have been taken in terms of the quality assurance against the system to make sure that everything is ready to go for next time. Because I honestly feel like everything else we're doing is gravy, but if that system isn't ready to go, all of our best efforts are going to
Right, and I can understand your concern, and I can tell you what they're doing technology. I don't know that anybody's gonna bring you in and sit down with you and give you every system of what they're doing. That I'd have to talk to others about what we can share, that's not proprietary and stuff.
absolutely.
I don't know where we
Yeah.
can go with that,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we have an in-house group that they look at the issue, they have a good handle on what happened. But our third party vendor is Oracle. They're the ones who are looking at from A to Z, just so it doesn't happen again, and so that
Great.
they can see anything else that we can possibly fix or work on.
buy, sure.
Yeah, and when we feel, and you also mentioned the smart meters, we are starting to install smart meters in your area. We have a count here of about 600 smart meters already installed. I guess that includes Chappaqua, Millwood. Total Westchester County, we have 63,000 installed already, so we are, propagating them as quickly as we can, because we feel that will help, that will give us some enhanced communication and a little more information on what's going on directly at the customer residence, which we really don't have right now.
Right, so we have 6,700 parcels in town, so that's less than 10%. Do you have an idea of, what the build out is for the
By
rest of the community?
by the end of 2019, they'll all be installed, everybody's,
So this is,
throughout the
So all of
entire
Westchester-
county, all of
all of
Westchester
Westchester.
County.
so this is, you're going basically neighborhood by neighborhood, or basically if somebody calls with an issue, and then you just replace
Yeah,
it?
how is that?
So it's kind of twofold. So if somebody calls and it's a new service for some reason,
Right.
they're gonna get the smart meter. We're not gonna put in an old meter to come back and change it to a smart meter later. So that's happening. But at the same time, it is following the meter reading cycles is really what it is. So that's why you're gonna find that some are gonna happen in some corners of your community, then it's gonna go to the next community, it's gonna come back. So that's why we can't say Newcastle itself will be done on date X. Everybody will be done by the end of 2019.
So tell me, the smart meters, what is their capability? They'll be able to alert you that the power has gone off in the house.
Yeah, there's, who's our,
So yeah, there's a lot of two-way communication too. So it's gonna tell us that a person is out, right?
Right.
But you, and some people, I must admit, we have a gentleman specifically in Sleepy Hollow area who got his on an early, it was just the cycle, right? He is so into it. He tells us everything that he's reading. So you as an individual will be able to go on and see your usage, when you peak, when you don't, so that there's a trend, and it's for us for building infrastructure, if we have to build infrastructure in certain areas because of usage. It's also encouraging, environmentally friendly things to maybe not use at certain points and use it at other times of day to balance out the system. We can encourage people. It's gonna be a lot of two ways communication.
Can I just ask you a question, because
And it's both, it's not just for electric, it's gas too,
okay,
just so you're aware.
I mean, as a resident and really, what I'm interested in is specifics. So we have the new smart meter that was put in our house. How quickly after my power goes down are you notified and what does your system do? Because you keep talking about two-way communication. People here have no problem picking up the phone and letting you guys know we're out, but the burden shouldn't always rest on us, especially when you're talking about all this new technology. So my smart meter is gonna tell you I have no power.
Correct.
Does it wait X number of minutes before it notifies you, just to see if it was a surge? It lets you know right away. What actually happens? Because that's what the people wanna know. They don't wanna hear the infrastructure's improving, they wanna know the
No,
specifics.
so no, it is gonna tell us, when you're out, it's gonna tell us.
And then what happens?
And so then what? So then we put it into the system, so work is done. And by the way they can read from the meter, some things will be able to tell what kind of a problem you're having. And they're gonna know if you're having the problem and nobody else in your neighborhood is having the problem too. Or if it's an area.
If I can interrupt, because this is not about smart meters, there's a much
Yeah,
more
no,
colossal, there's
okay.
a much more colossal failure on the part of Con Edison, period. I realize we work together and it's not our goal or objective or mine personally to attack Con Edison because you're helping us as a partnership in town. But at the same time, if I'm not telling you you failed us, then I'm not doing my job to protect my residents, and you failed us. A smart meter could tell you that you're out of power, but if you tell us we're getting power and you don't restore our power for 2, 5, 9, 10 days, I use the term again, you failed us. And you're failing Westchester County, you're failing people in emergency situations. So I really don't care about a smart meter per se, because even if it tells you I don't have power, that's not what this is about. It's about getting to us and fixing us and helping people who are in dire situations get the facilities that they, the electric back on, whatever it may be. So I looked online, I was trying to do a little bit of my homework, and I don't expect you to be able to answer all this now, but I certainly think that while we may be just a local town board, one of many, we're not Congress, we're not the state government for that matter, I think that you certainly should still be answerable to us, and I have many questions that I'd like to pose to you, and hopefully you can answer them.
That's
If
why
not
we're
today,
here, we're
if not today,
hoping so,
so
but that's
I
why
don't
we're
wanna
here.
get
I was
lost in
just
the
trying
weeds.
to answer the smart
Oh,
meter
no, I understand that, but
Yeah.
we only have a limited time, so I don't wanna get lost in the weeds. But just a little background, I did some research, so for example, there was 50% more outages this storm season than there was from Hurricane Irene in 2011. There was a commission put in place for you to make changes post-2013 as related to Sandy. And I can't profess to know what you did or didn't do, I'm just not knowledgeable enough. I would assume that you are, and may not be able to answer it here, it's not the forum to give us all that information. But I think, just based on what I saw and what my colleagues saw, and when I say saw, also listened to on these calls, there was some significant concerns. When we were asked how many we had poll watchers, we had line crews, restoration crews, and we asked simple questions, you know, what is a crew? How many trucks are in a crew? Are these crews that are going up and lifting and fixing wires? Is this someone sitting at a wire, and he certainly has a job to do, and just sitting there for 2 days looking at the wire, thank you. But that's not answering our question. I took a snapshot of, I think it was March 9th, but don't quote me, where we were advised, for example, that we had 505 outages in Newcastle. And guess what, we had 4 crews. Well, how many were in those crews? Where were those crews? Could you tell us what they were doing? You couldn't, you didn't. North Castle had 22 crews. When you look at some of the statistics, Bedford at the time had 21 outages and 2 crews, Briarcliff 71 and 3, Pleasantville had 12 and 9. You couldn't advise us what that meant, and that's not acceptable, it's not okay, because when people come to us, we can't answer. And then it also begs the question of when you say you have an outage, because we're sparsely populated, relatively speaking, over a larger geographical area, municipality, right or wrong, better or worse, we don't have a structure with 70 units. So when a customer's out, is that a customer meaning those 70 units, or is that 70 units within that one building of customers, as opposed to Newcastle? And it shouldn't be our fault that we are where we are geographically, that we have smaller, because it's generally one person home, single family homes, pardon me. So it didn't make sense to me, and I apologize. I think it's probably best, because I have a lot of questions, I can send it to you, but I want to put some out there that ultimately I hope you can provide to me. Ivy brought up about tracking trucks, what kind of trucks. When did you advise, when did you seek out mutual aid? At what point did you say, this is a real storm, we've dropped the ball, or we're proactive enough? At nighttime, when crews were going off work at 10 o'clock, was it because Con Edison didn't want to pay overtime to these people? Or was it a safety issue? Was it a wholesale, all work started at 10? Or some people worked past 10, depending on what they were confronted with? Because obviously, there are safety issues and you don't want to jeopardize these people. And to a large extent, I actually bought wine I think they were from Maine, I made a mistake. I bought bottles of wine for these guys, not to drink on the job, to drink after the fact, to celebrate. Because they're taking the brunt of anger from people, and it's simply not fair when the management top down is failing, and the infrastructure that you have in place is failing, but the woman and the man answering the phone and the woman and the man in the street are taking the brunt of our anger. If I were these folks, why? And I advised you, and I'm just a local yokel council person, but I had a son who was having, a 5-year-old was having surgery. It was, relatively speaking, a routine surgery, and it got canceled and moved and canceled and moved. How in God's name can I prepare my family, my son, when I'm being told that I'm getting my service back on at 11 o'clock at night and at 10:42, I know my service isn't coming on. Frankly, you know my service isn't coming on, but if I'm not there and I'm staying at a family house or somewhere else, why am I waiting to get that call 18 minutes before saying your service isn't being restored? You know it's not. Is it because you don't want calls of people inundating the system? And that may be a fair response. But it's not okay to treat people the way that you guys treated people. And I kind of joked, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek, I almost felt like we were in France and you're telling us, let them eat cake. I mean, eventually, the people that you serve in service, they may be constituents, regular folks, they are going to be in leadership positions down the road, right? Whether they're 18, 30, 50, this is a revocable license, if you will, that Con Edison has. The governor has mentioned multiple times. But, no one wants to be mistreated when you're up there, and I think I read that you, from 2016 to 17, your net income increased about $280 million. I realize that doesn't mean it's income in people's pocket, but certainly the shares increased. There's infrastructure you're investing in. But it's inconceivable to me that a resident is getting a text and on the phone saying your service is coming back tonight, and then they say, well, no one is here, and put on hold, you're right, it's not happening tonight. So there are so many questions that I have about what ultimately happened, and I took a quote from your CEO who said, we'll do a complete assessment of our performance. I don't know if that in full has been completed, what in writing with specificity can be shared, but there was a failure. I know you know that, but I think epic. You can't control the weather. You can't control how many people show up, but I think it's a reasonable ask, and I say this because it has to be said. And the caveat, again, I'm looking to be enemies, right? I need to work with you, but at the same time, I have to make sure that people are protected. And it's fair for you to tell us, going forward, and why it wasn't in the past, how do we know that you're gonna get mutual aid before it's too late? How do we know that you're gonna be able to tell us that in my municipality, why I have X amount of outages and statistically a heck of a lot less workers than another municipality? Where are those workers? Where are they heading next? A resident actually reached out to me, and I think reached out to a few of us on the board and said, this is not a rumor, it's fact, sent to a team, where are you next? And they weren't working. They didn't know where they were next. They were doing nothing. So he, for lack of a better term, kidnapped them and said, come to my neighborhood and fix. We're out. And they did that. Well, that's a colossal failure. It's a colossal failure. So I'll finish by saying it's not my intention to alienate you and be angry with you, but I'm angry because me aside, and it's not about me, I look at how the stress that I dealt with my 5-year-old son figuring out what we're going to do, being out with power for 8-9 days. There are many more people in a lot more dire situations and just living their lives who need you to do your job, need us to do our job, and we can't do it if you can't do it. So I'm happy to send you an email with all of my questions, but we deserve answers, not talking about it, again, no disrespect to everyone here, about when this goes off, when you're going to know, because it's not gonna make a difference if you're not gonna show up for 9 days and fix it. So that's my ask of you and my unintentional, yet it is what it is, in your face, we need help. I know you wanna help, I know it's not malicious, you will, but we need help.
Well, so if I may,
Please, by
I'd
all
like to
means, I
step
attack
back,
you.
I'd
I
like to
attack
step
you,
back
not
and
to
address.
purposely
No,
attack you.
that, absolutely.
People are frustrated and angry.
Totally. We totally understand that, and that is why you see the group of us here.
And we're grateful.
And we're here representing the company because the company is concerned too. And that's why we are here, to hear all of you out and to address your concern, whether it's about a smart meter or about when we're gonna be out there and about what happened in the storm. This storm, as you researched yourself, was unprecedented to what this area.
Right.
It was second only to Superstorm Sandy, which we know was devastating to us all. In this storm specifically, with the forecast, yes, there was a forecast for a storm, not to the extreme that it landed up being. We sustained 60-mile-an-hour winds for 36 hours. That is unprecedented for this area. What we saw come down in trees, and I'd like to address trees as well, what we saw come down in trees, in many cases, were even healthy trees. But over 70% of the trees that came down and took down wires, yes, I'll address underground too, but came down and took down wires, were not in our right-of-way. They were not trees that we touch. Yes, if we had gone by and seen a dead tree that we thought still had the opportunity because of its height to come down and take down a line, we would approach a neighbor and ask them for permission to do it. But it's not on our right-of-way, so it's not trees that we would have been trimming. So you should be aware of that. These are all things that we have. We are, our CEO, and right down to us and way below us, are committed to investigate the whole process that we went through. And that's what we're doing, and this is a piece of that. So we do want to hear from you, and we want to try to answer your question. Well, can we answer every question now? Probably not.
I'll send an email
So,
with all my questions.
what happened was we got hit by the first storm. It was the second. Our first call was on the first. And yes, we were devastated. I know that this also causes frustration. The 90% ETR, I know, which is estimated time for restoration, in case anybody doesn't know, was a universal for the company. We did hit that on Tuesday night. I know lots of people have been saying, you said you were gonna hit it Tuesday night, you didn't. We did. We can show you the numbers, we did hit it. Unfortunately, but that was it was the company-wide. It was not your town. Let me be totally clear. I said it was the universal estimated time we took. A lot of the work that we came out and did and repaired at that point, we got hit by the snowstorm, which the heavy wet snow. Lots of the same people, lots of same damage that we had just repaired.
If I just may say, I mean, it begs a question, and you can potentially answer it now or later, it begs a question of, when you're determining who to service, is it who's been out the longest? Or is I can take 80 units and get them back online, and you may be out for 24, but Newcastle, sorry guys, you wooded out there and you only got one home, you're gonna be out for 4 days.
Okay,
So that begs the question.
Another good point. Our first concern is safety. There were over, what was the number? 700 roads in Westchester County that were blocked. That was our first and foremost. People were being restored at the same time, it is true, because sometimes just when you're doing that clearing, some restoration just happens naturally. And if it's just a fuse and people are out on the street, they're gonna hit the fuse and turn those people back on. But first and foremost is safety. A live wire, we wanna see everybody go back home the same way they came to work.
100%.
So that is definitely the case. Yes, is it gonna be, there's gonna be critical facilities that are gonna be the first target. Your hospitals are gonna be water pump stations that are the water for a municipality. Those kinds of things are gonna be addressed as well. nursing homes,
So when it
things
comes
like
down to
that.
straight up resident versus resident, when I understand these other things have to happen first. Back to the question, is the unit that houses multiple homes or customers going to be serviced because you can get more bang for your buck? So therefore, by default, down county's gonna get a better service than we are, or if 17 homes are out on a particular neighborhood in Newcastle or Somers, wherever it may be, Yorktown, are they gonna take a back seat because you can get the 80 units up quicker in Mount Vernon or Yonkers or White Plains because it's less trees, more urban, so you have high rises and more condensed living.
So, in doing a work plan, anybody can jump in and I don't have to be
Yeah, you're
all
like-
in now.
you're a-
But, so what would happen is, mostly in the overnight, a lot of the work is being planned and laid out. It's being engineered, and so if they know now, looking at the damage assessment, what they can get back quickly, what's gonna take longer. So you have to, that's when they work the crews on where they should be. Are we gonna get back if we can get a ton of people? I'm not talking, sometimes those high-rise buildings that I think you're making, they land up being 1 meter. Sometimes they're not, but they're 1 meter, so they're counted as one customer as opposed to whatever's in the building, 200 people. They're counted as one customer, as your house is probably counted as one customer. So there's going to be, if you're gonna be able to get a great number of people, that would be our target. But if to get that great number of people is gonna take so many man hours and so many trucks where we could get a ton of others back quicker, that's the plans that are being done. And that can only be done by the people looking at the entire system and at the damage and stuff. So it's not an absolute rule. We do like to go for the critical, we go for safety, we go for critical customers, we do all those things, then you go for the bulk. Yes, I would say to you, if you're 2 houses on a long dead-end street all by yourself, you're probably gonna be waiting.
So the reality of it is for Newcastle and Up County, the reality of it is, while you're not saying it, and it's not, again, it's not a malicious thing,
You can also say it's most of
it's not going to be atypical for us because we're more sparsely populated and you can't get as much bang for your buck post, services to a hospital, that we're going to end up waiting, and we should be prepared to understand that if reality is a 200 person unit that counts as one versus my unit that counts as one, you're gonna get those 200 people online before you're gonna get
I
us.
can't tell you that. It depends on the amount of work that it's gonna take. The amount of work that may take to get your place online may be much easier,
But I guess he's
there-
saying all things being equal, if you're comparing apples to apples, you're certainly gonna put online first the 1 meter that's gonna fix 200 homes than the 1 meter that's gonna fix 1 home.
And that could be a reasonable response.
Yeah,
Even if
that
we're
would
stuck, even if we're
probably,
stuck.
if everything was apples to apples like that, that very well could be.
But I would argue that there's another factor, not just population density, that should be considered in that equation, which is that, on the more rural roads, people are, less able to get out, less able to walk.
But that's why the road
services.
clearance takes a higher priority
And
than
also, northern Westchester is almost always, everybody jokes about the 287 line, right? Northern Westchester is always harder hit by the future
Well,
storm.
and-
So, in this instance, I do feel like a lot of us were looking at the numbers and going, ooh, northern Westchester's really getting,
They were,
getting the
it's where
shaft
it was
here.
hit. No, you
and-
said it was getting the shaft.
but
That's
fact
who was
All the
hit.
crews were,
But
no,
the
That's where the crews were because they were hit.
But we were all, so we had the highest
Jane, that's not
outage
true.
percentages going into the second storm,
So,
which was unfortunate
the
because we
crews-
were also going to get harder hit by the second storm.
The crews, again, that's not, I don't know if that's fair, because I look at some of the numbers that I remember writing down, trying to, as quickly as I could. Scarsdale 303, 14 crews. Newcastle 505, 4 crews. New Rochelle 19 crews to our 4 crews, they had 730 out. But, so I don't know if that's,
I can't talk to the
Yeah, I would
things
have to
that you're
understand
feeling.
which day that is. So typically what happens is, right after the storm, we send out 2 groups of people. Site safety and people to actually assess the damage. Now, what happened in this case, like Jane said, we had 682 road closures and we had about 1,800 wire downs in Westchester County. So when a damage assessor goes out, if they see a wire down, they're required to stay there for public safety again, because they see a wire down, they can't leave that. They have to wait for a site safety to come to stay on the wire down before they can move on. So damage assessment always goes out first, and they assess to see where the largest impacted areas first, and where the road closures, even though we appreciate the muni's help, because they also call them for road closures. And our first response is always to get those roads open, because typically, first of all, you wanna get the ambulances through, you want to get fire departments through, you wanna be able to make sure all the EMS can go through. Plus also, a lot of times you have police and fire on those wire downs, and even, keeping those roads open. So that's our first priority. So early on, it is a little challenging to see exactly where all the crews are, because usually for road closure, they're just, clearing that wire down, getting the road opening, typically working with the local DPWs to help move the trees, because again, like Jana said before, 95% of these outages were because of trees came down in our wires, a lot of them out of the right of way. So it's not just like a wire down, we're putting the wire down. Usually it's a tangled mess where you have, the tree down, the branches, and nobody can touch anything until we clear the wires and say it's safe. And then we can start going through, everything, the telephone, the cable, separating out our wires, and then of course we restore. Well, we typically don't restore, we just pretty much cut it clear, make it safe, and then we're moving on next road closure because we don't want to spend too much time there because we have, 600 more road closures to get to. So that's our first priority, road closures, and then wire downs. So it does take us a while to get, depending on, this was a very unique situation, the amount of damage and difficulty to get
My
there.
fear is that it may not be so unique.
Well,
Well,
but
we'll
looking
tell you,
at-
we're concerned about the storms too. I mean, as you all can experience, they're different storms than we've had in the past, the damage has been worse.
So again, tracking of the lifetime of all our storms, and we have storms on record here, the earliest one is
I mean, that aside, again, so that, we acknowledge that, so I don't need to beat you up anymore, and that's not my intention. We're not pursuing a poll legislation because we're working together, we're working with you in town. That's not, our goal is not to push anyone away, we're working together, but I think you can all appreciate that just as you love your family, and someone in Yonkers, someone in Somers, someone in wherever the heck they are, New Rochelle and North Castle, we all have the same concerns. So we felt that we got stuck and people were out a long, long time. It's not your fault directly, it's whether you believe in God or Mother Nature, it's he or she was angry and punished Westchester County. But we just wanna make sure that going forward, simple things can get answers. And I have a whole list that I don't need to bore you with now, I'll send to you.
We have time.
I'll send to you.
One other thing that's just simple, but I know I found it really frustrating as a board member, is that I got a ton of phone calls from people saying, hey, the Con Ed people are saying that the reason we don't have power back is because DPW hasn't done their job and they need to clear the trees. But they couldn't clear trees because there are lines down, and they're not gonna touch lines until you guys come. But a lot of the crews on the street were telling the residents, no, it's your town government's fault, and you have to talk to them why they haven't cleared these trees. And we got that a lot, so then I'm getting residents, and I'm sure you guys did too, calling saying, what are you guys doing? You haven't had DPW clear trees
We got a
when
lot
they
of,
can't.
we got a lot of calls about that, and
Yeah.
we straightened the people out, we said, look, it's a safety issue. Con Ed does not want us to touch trees that have wires in them. We're not allowed to do that.
Right, but that's not what they're telling the residents.
So
Working
for
crews
those-
are telling them the other thing.
Yeah, so
Right.
for those situations, because we've canvassed our guys, and we don't really understand where that was coming from, unless it was a mutual assistance cruise. If
No,
anybody
it's
ever
actually
says,
Con Ed.
somebody is saying that, if you can get a truck number, then we could,
Next time we will.
yeah, that would be
Actually,
phenomenal,
There were
because,
operators, I actually know people that provided me with the names of supervisors
oh,
who
if you
were
can get,
answering
yeah,
things.
if you can get a name of somebody that said that,
It
we'd
was not the
be,
mutual aid crews.
sorry?
The mutual aid crews were very good.
Oh.
It was Con Ed crews specifically.
Yeah.
But if you could
That's
educate
very,
them as well
Absolutely, so
before
I was
to make
gonna
sure
jump
they
in
don't
there,
say that.
because we did hear that,
You go down the course road.
complaint, we did.
Yeah.
So, of course, in our world of technology, if one person says that, then it also grows. So, do I doubt that it happened? No, I'm sure it happened at places. I'm sure it happened. Whether it was somebody watching a wire, or somebody called, or somebody said anything. One of our the things that we're going to address is that you may know them as line watchers or wire watchers or whatever. We're going to have, because people approach them, they don't have information. The reality is, I'll tell you all here right now, they don't have information. They're there just to protect people from going near the wires. Same with, outside crews. I don't know if they're saying it, you're saying Con Ed crew said it, maybe they did. As Joe said, if you can ever get us a truck number or something, we'll follow up. But we're going to put out a document to those people every day that says, this is where we stand in the system, this is what you can say, do not be blaming the municipality because we know that you have to wait for us. We know that and we want to make sure that you follow that so everybody is safe. So that is something that we're committed to doing, to make sure that that message. Does that mean somebody's not going to say it? I can't guarantee you that, but we're going to try to educate people that that's not done.
Jen, at every level of government, you're gonna be hearing, they're gonna be doing reports and telling you what could have been done better. We did it here at our local level, it's being done in Westchester County, it's being done at the state level. There's gonna be plenty of opportunity for you guys to hear the feedback and to make the adjustments. So I appreciate you coming here tonight. Personally, I'd like to still hear the answer about burying the lines, and then there was another issue that you said you were gonna address, and I can't remember what it was now. You brought it up at the beginning.
Replacing poles?
Not replacing.
Nature poles?
The trees.
The trees, the trees, right.
Oh, the trees,
right.
okay. So the one thing I wanted to point out was that in this case, over 70% were trees that we're not gonna come cut anyway, Are we looking to enhance it and maybe look a little further from this? People can still say no to us, but we can try to look to enhance that. We do, you should be aware, we have a cycle, we come through every 3 years and trim. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's an area that we know that for some reason grows quicker, we come back quicker, we have those areas identified. But you're on a 3-year cycle, as is our whole Con Edison territory is on a 3-year cycle for tree trimming, so that does happen.
I noticed, let me just interrupt you, just speaking of trees before you go on to the underground wires. I noticed that in some towns years ago, and not even New York, it was another state, they had something where you sign up for like a paperless bill, Con Ed will plant a tree, something like that, I'm not sure if this is in your domain or not, but it seems like.
We've done that.
Right, but
We've
it'd be
done
nice
that
to do it
too.
again, because people get upset when you take down trees, but if you're doing programs, in my opinion, take it for what it's worth. If you do programs like that, where you're basically saying, hey, sign up for paperless bills and we'll plant a tree, or even if you're not required to comply with the town's tree ordinance, but you voluntarily decide to comply anyway, if you take down a tree, then you plant another tree, I think that'll help some of the pushback that you may get when you take down trees, sometimes rightfully so, to protect your equipment. Because people do care about the trees.
They do care about, and so we try to do education. Our tree trimming folks, they're not here with us tonight, but they're out there a lot at Arbor Days, things like that, doing a lot of right tree in the right place, giving examples of trees, short growing trees to go under lines as opposed to tall growing trees, things like that.
This question was more of a give back or statement.
And we have,
Well, not
and
so much with money,
what
but
we
just to plant
did.
trees when you take
So
it down.
the deal was that if you signed up for paperless bills, what was being done was, as opposed to tracking everything, it was giving to Westchester Parks for them to plant. The funding was given for them to go around Westchester County and plant the trees. We weren't planting the trees, so.
Right, but it's a
that's-
nice message, in my opinion, only because it's, when you're gonna take down trees, if people realize that you're also committed to planting trees, it'll reduce some of the pushback, it's just
Right,
a
they don't get
suggestion, whatever it's worth.
Yeah. And then in undergrounding, just real quickly, undergrounding is, as was brought up, is astronomical cost. I mean, we're talking $8 million a mile is, yeah, $8 million a mile. But the added piece, and I don't know whether I've mentioned it to Jill before, you can talk to, there are municipalities who have, some have gotten grants to underground in very small areas of their communities, like their downtown or something that they wanted to do. The feedback I've gotten, and I can give you names that would be willing to talk to you, there's also, you have to be aware, a cost to whatever homeowner or business that's there. They have to change their internal system to be able to meet the power needs then. And everybody's gotta go underground. Like, somebody can't say, well, no, I'm not paying that cost and not going under, because the poles aren't going away then. You know, unless everybody goes under, you're not losing those poles. So that's a piece too, and I can connect you to people because I know that some of those ones that did it through a grant and got the businesses to agree that they were gonna go and do it, they ran into some roadblocks. So I would just caution you to talk to them and
But so
prepare yourselves beforehand if you want
Con Ed
to.
as a company is not looking at the sort of cost benefit of doing this.
So the cost benefit, we have looked at the cost benefit and have done it in some areas. There was some that's done. We found when we did the cost benefit after Superstorm Sandy in 2012, we thought we would be doing more undergrounding than we did. We found that the dollars that we spent were better used strengthening what was there. We're using thicker lines on the overhead now, bigger, stronger poles, you know, wider poles, more switches, and also what was done after Superstorm Sandy is, so you might have had a line that if something went out, 2,000 people went out. We came back and we cut all those lines into smaller portions so that something came down, the goal is less than 500 people will go out in any one area. So we found that that was more, and we should point out that even, we found in doing the review of everything, I don't know what the percentage is, I can't quote, of people who didn't go out because of the storm enhancement that we did. What was it?
I don't remember the number.
It was 2,700 outages were avoided based on storm hardening that we did.
Here in Newcastle.
In this area.
Yeah.
Do you, and maybe it's not you, maybe it's you know, sort of the larger company, do you have like a roadmap or a list of next steps of sort of the things that you've heard from municipalities like ours and sort of your intended next steps?
Is there a public document that you're gonna generate?
Well, so there's a public, we had to generate material already to the Public Service Commission, which is public information. Anybody can look at that.
Most
But
of those
that's,
questions
that's
are in that
mostly
public.
storm
most of the
review, I
answers
guess
are
I'm
public.
asking,
steps.
I'm asking
Oh,
about
the
what
next
are, what are
steps.
your intended,
Oh, okay.
yes.
So that you should know what our plan is now. We're going out to folks like yourself, we're going to other municipalities as well. And the boards typically haven't been involved in this, but we every year come out and do tabletop exercises with your municipality, and we have something we call an information exchange that we held at our headquarters once a year. That would have been happening now. We didn't do it because we thought our time was better spent taking a hard look at what's happened. We plan on all this information, we've started to accumulate it and to gather it and bring everybody back in the fall for a meeting to address what our next steps and what we plan to do.
With that idea about having trucks, I mean, I know Mike Kaplan's raised it, but the state, when they have, National Guard, they send the National Guard sometimes to help direct traffic. What if the National Guard was able to drive down, 200 utility vehicles, and the guys from Canada or from North Carolina could jump on a plane and get here? Would that work? I mean, do they need their specific trucks, or could a generic truck?
It was actually a
satisfy
truck
the
that was
needs?
electrically high potted, so it was just in case something happened, and it was insulated from the ground.
Right,
So
whatever
we-
the electrical trucks are, like a
Yeah,
utility
yeah,
truck.
trucks.
If they
I
had
mean
the
utility
trucks,
trucks.
that would be, if
I
we
mean,
just identify the
They
people.
store them at the armory.
Right, I
the
mean,
same
this,
way they
right,
do in Asheville.
just like this federal government has, equipment on hand that they hopefully never have to use.
So it is
you know.
something that we're looking into. I mean, we're listening to all of it. I'll tell you, far-fetched ideas, we're listening to any of it. There's, you don't know what's gonna work, so
These
yes.
storms are gonna happen more frequently. I mean, I don't need to tell, everybody in this room knows it, it's not, we're not talking about 100-year storms anymore, we're talking probably 5-year storms now,
Yeah, I can't tell you where that's gonna go, but it is something that's being looked at. Yeah, as you know, it was brought up, as you mentioned.
And the GPSs, I have to tell you, all of our trucks are
So our trucks are GPS too, mutual aid trucks aren't, and so
But
we.
aren't there portable units, Jerry, aren't there portable units? Units, and maybe that's the answer, because the cell service is a little iffy during these storms as well, so, and we have whole areas that there's dead zones. I understand it's the mutual aid trucks that come up and
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
our own-
portable
We can probably
units would
require them in
definitely,
their contracts to have their own GPS system.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I mean, it's a huge deal. Just for you being able to understand where your resources are so that you can deploy them effectively.
And and just to touch on something that Jeremy said, which was when you guys talk about how many, what's the word again, crews you got in, and some of the things you said on the call was like, one crew could be 6 trucks. And like, I think
And then
that's
knows
a
what kind
problem.
of trucks, a truck that's got a.
That's a problem in the
lift up
sense
and
that
bucket.
you may tell us we have 4 crews, but then you drive around, you see 30 trucks. So I'm not saying there's a negative, I'm saying it is almost like a positive, like honestly, I think people would rather hear how many trucks you got in their town than crews. Because that,
Yeah. I
again,
think it
6
should be
trucks is one
defined,
crew, I'd rather hear 6 trucks.
So we're talking internally about how we're gonna define mutual assistance crews, because when you request FTEs, which is line workers, they'll send you those FTEs, and then based off.
FTE, just so
I'm
you know,
sorry.
is an individual
That's right,
person, is an individual
right.
person, an FTE.
So they may have, we have chief linemen who can run a crew, they may have a working foreman who can run a crew, but they may send 10 people with them to do work on a bigger job. But they need that one person there, so then we say that's one crew that can go to one job, because we can't split them up.
So they go to a big job.
But a truck is a truck.
Right.
Yeah, so
Truck is a
just so
truck.
you can put a name with the face,
I
Kevin
know.
Bradley's in charge of overhead, so he's the gentleman who's responsible for the utility replacement of our 20 downtown poles. He's the one who's been spearheading it.
Oh, great.
So he's the one that we-
Looks good.
Every day I see kind
It's nice, it's like coming,
He got the good point, okay, well.
my expression is every day I see Con Ed here is a good day.
Can I say one thing about that? I noticed in another town where very tall poles were also put up, and then the wires were totally in the middle of the pole. So it kind of defeated the purpose of putting the higher
Well, not
poles
the
in
Con
there.
Ed wires though.
Yeah, it's not Con Ed.
Yeah.
It's
It's telephone.
It's probably telephone.
Con Ed's gonna
Okay,
shut up.
I just wanna make sure that
We'll have to
as much as you
proactively-
guys can do, yeah, we'll have to let the utilities, everything's gotta be high up.
Yep.
Otherwise, there's no
So I
point.
think now that are we all right for now, guys and gals and folks? Thank you again. Not my intention to beat it up, other than we have to protect our folks and we need answers because it hits us and we can't answer and we wanna make sure that people are okay going forward.
And
I'm
we
sure you do.
understand that once our communication system went, frustration then just adds, so, because then you don't have correct information. But we're committed to having people like Michael
Yeah, he was
get
great.
better information from us so that he can share it with you, so.
For the
Can we
municipal.
can we get dibs on Michael?
Well, I was just gonna say, I thought you guys wanted to swap them out.
No.
I saw an email.
Well,
I just wanna say one thing, so, I come here with my Con Ed hat on, obviously, but I'm also a neighbor, so I live literally, down the street from this territory. And, the glitch that we have with our community system cannot be underestimated. The impact that it had on, it was a domino impact. Almost everything that you talked about, other than the basic communication lesson that we learned from this, really stemmed from that communication system's glitch. It had an impact on our ability to get our arms around the full impact of the storm. Had direct impact on our ability to understand where the outages were, what the restoration times were going to be. A lot of the communication that we were doing was based on that glitch. You had good people with a bad system. And if you don't mind me going off script or whatever, I'll talk just as a guy who lives in this community who also lost power, who has a wife and kids who I felt this, and you guys, I was there for 12 hours.
He was
great, you're fine.
He was arguing himself.
You might vote for CEO.
No. I'm telling you that I'm a reflection of good things that we have in our company. So it's not an accident that I'm here because I'm a reflection. There's some really good things that are happening in this company. There was a tremendous, phenomenal disconnect that flowed through that system. The fact that again, the forecast was underestimated how bad it was going to be. We had to actually compete with a storm that went from Virginia all the way up to Maine. Typically, when you have these types of storms, you might have New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. But this was from Virginia to Maine. We were fighting for resources, and then we had commitments that were made from other states, and they didn't always come through. When we heard that they were going to come through, there was just a litany of things that went wrong, and I'm not even sure if maybe even I prepared as much as I should have to actually give you the confidence that maybe you would want to have. But I can tell you that we do have a technology team that is in place that is stress testing the system to make sure that we minimize this. the AMI system, I know you said you didn't want to necessarily hear about that, but literally it gives, it will give real-time information.
AMI is a smart meter.
The smart meters. So, and by the way, not for nothing, we invested over $1 billion into this infrastructure before the storm. So at least we had a head start in making sure that, you know, in the future, our company will be prepared for these types of things. And the other good ideas that I heard you allude to, I guess we're not officially allowed to actually acknowledge that we're, I don't know, I don't want to go, I don't know if I'm talking now as a Con Ed person or a non-Con Ed person, but I'm letting you know that, no, listen, we care, that's why we're here.
We don't doubt that at all.
All right, and I'm just letting you know, we're making the investments, people are being held accountable, and you can expect us to be a great company and a partner in the future. And speaking of partnership, I just wanted to ask one question. Is there any opportunity for us to partner with you in getting more buy-in with the idea of addressing the vulnerable trees that are in the territory? Because even just driving down here on Route 120, I can't tell you how many trees I saw that in the future could be a problem.
We have to have a conversation, it is what it is, right?
Well, in my opinion, I actually stated my opinion in the form of a question. I personally think you need to do what you need to do, but I think you need to be conscious of the fact that people are greatly concerned about the trees, and if you take a tree down and you plant another tree in another location, this is my suggestion, you know, and have programs that show that you're committed to trees. It is a renewable resource, but if you show that you're you know, if you're taking a tree down that's a danger to your equipment, put another tree up. You know, if you get people are saving trees by having paperless bills, you know, encourage that somehow. You know, show that you're committed to trees, and there's some trees that just have to come down.
The big C is communication, not Con Edison.
Yeah, so I would say to you too, though, I just have to underline, and as Michael said, yes, there was a communication problem. The information was not correct, but I want to assure you that our work plan the information may not have been coming through right. The work plan was going through. It didn't stop our crews and the management directing the crews to do that. They worked well. They actually kept things moving. So I do want to underline that, you know, the crews did work, so communication was.
And by the way, when people see the crews, I think everybody wants to hug them. I mean,
Yes.
it's not a question of like, in my opinion, people didn't take the anger out on the crews.
No, not at all.
They literally just wanted to hug them. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Can I give you a coffee, hot chocolate, brownies,
I think the people on the phone
lunch?
got the worst probably.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Jane, you got a lot of it too. You know, but the crews, they were embraced. We were happy to see them.
I can get you
They
wine
worked
also.
hard. They worked hard, what?
I can get you wine also.
No, please, no.
Good wine.
So you'll hear from us when we're ready.
Thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for coming.
We appreciate your time.
It's the sickest thing ever, so when you say it's good wine, like if you brought me a bottle of wine, yeah, I could take a picture, You ever see this?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to our work session. We're in the same seats, we're in the same outfits. It's a continuation. Here we go. What do we got first?
So Dick Goldsmith is here this evening. So we are having an issue, it's not just us, the country is having an issue with recyclables. The main market is China, and you may or may not be aware, but there may be a trade war going on, and of course, there's nothing overt, but it used to be that our recyclables were accepted, and now they are being rejected as being not clean enough.
That goes back to January January 1st of this year.
Right.
They really clamped down.
So the recyclables that we send over there are now being shipped back, so there's that cost. And then we're going to have to pay to, as trash, as opposed to being paid for them being.
Is it still going to?
The nation.
Oh, please, you have to get a laptop, I gotta show you these pictures.
Wait, time out, so you're talking about the town recyclables, or we're still gonna recycle them, but we're just paying a higher fee?
No,
We
I'll
need
explain it.
That's frightening.
But you need to look at
We
the
need a
pictures.
computer.
Do you want me to move on to Yeah.
Yeah, go
Well,
on.
Nick, I can't.
Can we approve a resolution as we're waiting for a computer, Nick?
What's that?
Can we approve a resolution as we're waiting for a computer?
Joe asked us to wait, I suggest.
Isn't there an issue with the, I know you can do your presentation,
That's
isn't
right.
the issue with a single stream that's turning out to be more costly than people thought? Single stream, mixing it, is turning into a problem?
It's being more, it is more costly because of contamination. And the Chinese.
Fictitious contamination or real contamination?
I beg your pardon?
Fictitious?
Non-recyclables.
No, that's why I want to show you the
Yeah.
pictures. It's not fictitious. People are, what is the words I have in one of my slides?
Commingling?
Is this costing the town more money?
Not yet, but it will shortly.
Your next contract.
The next contract will be extremely
Unless it's worked out.
challenging.
Yeah, because the market is down as well as they're being more stringent in what they're accepting as recyclables.
So it's like contaminated, or they like dirty people are cleaning out
People
there?
are wanting to recycle, and they are putting all kinds of things into the single stream that are not recyclable, even before we had problems.
Like what?
Just as a, well, for instance, the other day, Mike down at the recycling center pulled a plastic car bumper out of the single stream because it's plastic. Somebody put it into the single stream.
What's the recourse if someone tries to recycle something that's blatantly non-recyclable?
Well, so far, the only recourse has been that when the people from Santa Pro go around, and if they open up the recycling bins, whatever.
Which you probably use just go, they don't probably look.
If they see
No,
plastic,
they do.
if they see plastic bag, they put a sticker on it that says oops, and they won't take it. So there you
But
are.
that's the
there.
whole load, we're talking
Right,
about,
I'm
like, you're talking
talking,
about one specific
yeah, I'm talking,
thing.
so with a bumper, and I said, buddy, you,
Yeah, well, if you see him
We're now
throwing
gonna
it,
find-
right, if you
we're
see
gonna
him, if you
bumper.
see him throwing it in there, then you can tell him, hey, that doesn't go, and you can try to get him to take it out, but as Mike says, this is Chappaqua, so.
Yes, so I have to tell you that that's one of the things that our new recycling person is going to be doing down there, is literally going to be babysitting our big, what do you call it, container? The roll-off that has the recycling in it. Thank you.
He said a woman came today with bags, plastic bags with her single stream, and he said, you can't put the plastic bags into the single stream. Well, how else am I supposed to get it
well,
down?
then dump it, like,
Yeah, but she threw it in anyway after he told her not to. So
well,
what
then,
is she gonna do,
not
give it over to the
then we should
police?
find people who do that.
Well,
If you are being told, and we have a witness that said
Right.
you've been told you can't do something and they do it,
Right,
there needs to be accountability.
I agree, but I don't know how you do that.
Very easy. The person cites it, gets,
But Mike isn't gonna sit there and give out tickets.
But that's a different issue, this is basically, right now, we have an issue with the single stream recycling, which is, there's gonna be some changes that we have to make.
We do. And because people are trying to recycle everything and they can't. They put in plastic toys, kids' plastic toys. I have pictures to show you, shoes. They put whatever they think is not garbage, they put into the recycling, into the single stream. And even when they're trying to do the right thing, for instance, when we started, we said you can put in juice boxes, soup containers, things of that nature, no more.
I put in soup containers all the time, even the plastic ones from the Chinese food, you can't put in there?
The plastic containers that you bring Chinese food home in, you mean the white ones with the little
clear
metal-
ones.
The clear ones with soup.
The clear ones from the soup, as long as they're clean,
I think they're out there clean.
okay, things all have to be clean.
What does clean mean?
What about the sushi ones, like
Clean
the black
mean,
ones?
does clean mean I've dumped out the contents,
No,
or does clean
rinsed.
mean I've,
oh god.
I've rinsed them, but it doesn't mean it has to go through the dishwasher.
No, but they
Yeah,
need to be rinsed.
I actually recycle them, I use them, I love the Chinese stuff, but I was curious.
But I'll give you the little
Great,
white
it's like Tupperware.
containers
Yeah, I call it Chinese.
that you say gets Chinese take out in.
white plastic or the
They're
square?
lined with wax,
Those
right?
are
So
great
you
boxes.
can't.
No, not the
Sorry?
The rice
boxes, the
boxes,
plastic
the
ones.
boxes
Yeah.
of the plastic
They're
containers.
great.
No, the white boxes with the little metal
Yeah,
handles.
yeah,
this
because they're coated, right?
this
You
is
can't.
news to me.
Exactly.
I
You
don't think
can't
my
have
Chinese food
plastic caps on your bottles?
Correct.
You can't have the caps are recycled?
I throw away
Caps are
like,
recyclable.
I thought that's,
Look, I was just about to
Bottles,
throw this
bottles
cup into
every
the
week.
garbage outside, and then when Rob came out, he said, why are you staring at your
Well,
cup?
I walked out there, it was like this.
I was talking to him.
Because for instance, your cups that you get from Starbucks, your paper cups, like this one, are lined.
Lined, yeah.
No good. Can't take it.
but the so the caps can't be recycled?
Correct.
The bottles can be?
Right.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of
I'm keeping my
plastic.
caps in there.
What if my wife wants to do
Are they
husband, would she
still
stick them in the
collecting
recycling?
Wrong. You're gonna separate those caps.
So I throw the caps in the garbage and the bottles in the recycling.
Nick, can you ask
Wow.
I
Sabrina
didn't
what
know
the
that.
password is? so I
Just
can get on
saying.
this?
Oh, I can tell you what it is. It's
I
on
love
post-it
Jill,
note out here.
exclamation point.
I had to look it up for our last meeting.
Oh, fine.
Password?
It's not a
That'd be
It's crazy that the caps are recycled as plastic.
What if it was really
That's
bad,
the
like
first I've
Jill
heard of
States,
it.
that's-
200 Town Hall, capital T.
I don't know
Town Hall.
why I
No,
know
I don't
that.
think that-
Now we all
Really?
know, everyone
Oh,
knows.
with the
No,
cold.
that's
All our
it.
2 viewers.
Isn't that the,
That's
I
a
know.
lot, yeah,
I have
that's
it
the
down, I have it
Wi-Fi.
saved. Oh, you're not looking for the Wi-Fi?
No, I'm
Oh.
looking for her.
Oh, Sabrina's, yeah, we
Yeah.
don't wanna say that.
Yeah, don't say that out loud.
Yeah. Mayor Rob, try that. See password docs, link password.
Meanwhile, this is still warming up, so.
Okay, we sure we can't go through any of our,
Yeah, let's go through our stuff while we're waiting.
Okay, I move to approve the payment of claims in the amount of $1,668,472.92 listed in the summary pre-check writing report and detail voucher detail reports, each prepared on June 20th this year. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claimant listed on Thursday, June 21st, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to appoint Kevin Watts to the position of youth officer detective with the town of Newcastle Police Department at an annual salary of $118,681. This appointment date will be June 21st, 2018. This appointment will be contingent upon a probationary period of no more than 52 weeks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to authorize hiring Matthew Alto as a part-time animal ward and parking enforcement officer at an hourly salary of $20. This appointment will be contingent upon a probationary period of no more than 52 weeks. And subject to the Westchester County Civil Service rules, the appointment will begin and commence on June 25th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Take it away, Lisa.
I move to authorize hiring Christopher Rikers as temporary summer help at an hourly salary of $13 for an 11-week period in the recycling center. The appointment date will be June 27th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sucker.
Okay, well, are we doing
Jump to-
Upper Minkle Dam right now, or we haven't talked about that yet?
We haven't, it's just for a, so it's for a CFA application for grant funding, just for the
right.
hydrology
Yeah.
studies.
Can you just jump down to the
I move the
therefore?
town board authorizes its support for the development department's $56,856.45 grant request under the 2018 consolidated funding application for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's Water Quality Improvement Projects Program Grant Program. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Your turn.
That was good, like a.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, let's go hop to that therefore.
Yeah, you can hop to the there for it.
Alright. I move to authorize support for the development department's $1 million grant request under the 2018 consolidated funding application for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's Water Quality Improvement Projects Program Grant Program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize reimbursing the city of Beacon $9,500 for training costs associated with police officer Picciano?
Yeah,
I think it's more of a chill.
In accordance with the general municipal law, section 72C, as amended by chapter 97 of the laws of 2011, part C, subpart C, section 1.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to approve the correction to Newcastle's annual contribution for therapeutic recreation services for individuals with disabilities residing or domiciled in our area, together with the Northeast Westchester Special Recreation Incorporated and neighboring municipalities that was previously approved on March 27th of this year. Therefore, be resolved that the town of Newcastle correct annual contribution of $14,115.79 to provide therapeutic recreation services to 38 Newcastle residents is calculated and payable as set forth below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to amend the resolution dated November 14th of 17 awarding engineering services for the Millwood Sidewalk Improvement Project to NV 32 Old Slip, 4th floor, New York, 10005 for the total project amount including contingencies, $190,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Sure.
Aye.
Sorry.
Wait a second, okay.
This, in the agenda, it said that this was to bump it up to include the contingency, which was not initially approved by the town board.
Right.
But the contingency on this is actually 25%, and did we already spend all of it?
No, we haven't spent,
He has received some bills and he's approaching that amount, but he hasn't
expended it yet.
expended it yet, but he expects that there will be some things that are gonna go over and he wanted to be ahead of that.
It's a pretty big contingency, 25%.
And at the time, he actually recommended that we do it for the contingency, include the contingency amount in the original contract award because he expected that.
Yeah, okay.
But we-
So
we
it's not a
didn't do
surprise,
that
but
this
it
year.
just, at that point,
Yeah, okay.
we decided.
All right. Good, thank you.
All right, so now we're ready for recycling?
Yes, recycling, and then I've got 7
Thank you.
items afterwards.
No, I'd like to stand next.
Okay,
Thank
when
you.
you do recycling presentations, you like to stand?
Okay, so the problem with recycling, I want to bring you up to date with what's going on. And I call it, when in doubt, throw it out.
Pretty catchy.
Thank you. So here is a picture that was taken of the single stream, one of the single stream loads that was brought up to Recommunity.
That's just someone being lazy.
I think that's my sneaker. No, I'm just kidding.
But you can see there's
that.
coffee grounds, there's little plastic things, there is just all kinds of shit.
Stuff.
Stuff.
For our young
Stuff,
watchers at
stuff.
home.
Yeah. Okay, so the New York Times ran this article about 3 weeks ago that says plastic and paper vessels from cities and towns are being dumped in landfills after China stopped recycling most foreign garbage. And it goes on to say, I think this is the article that I sent you the other day.
This is right there.
Yeah, and here's the thing about the imports. And they now have somebody, what happens with our single stream is that Sanipro collects it, and they take it to their yard in Tarrytown. They have a company that they own called American Paper, where they go through and they take all the paper and they separate it from the other things, which then goes up to Recommunity and Beacon, where those all get sorted out. But they have an inspector there from China. And when they bale this stuff up, if there's more than 0.5% of waste or spoilage or bad paper in the bales of paper, they reject it all.
Then what happens to it?
Goes to a landfill.
So
Do we not have any recycling centers in this country that can do
There are some,
whatever?
there are some, but when, it's a matter of transportation costs, I asked Nick about that. And since we're by the coast. Nick Orlando, who's the head of Suburban. And since we're by the coast, it's less expensive to put it on a ship and send it out.
Well,
As
no,
far as
they're
shipping
not
it.
taking it.
Not if they're not taking it. That's why they have the inspectors here now, and if the inspectors reject it, then usually it'll wind up in a landfill, or an incinerator, actually. Most of the garbage goes to the incinerator.
Why can't it go to one of our domestic recycling?
But it's still, because it's still
Because they have
dirty.
contracts with people who are in the Midwest.
It sounds like a business opportunity.
Inspirational recycling.
Yep. So, what people are doing here, the words I couldn't think of before, is what we call aspirational recycling. Whatever it is that's not garbage, they think, oh, this can be recycled, and they throw it into the single stream. And it just doesn't work that way, especially now. So, here is again some other pictures of, and I don't know how well you can see them, but the kind of papers that are mixed in here just makes the whole load unacceptable.
So they take,
Okay?
they
And China
can,
will only take it if it's less than 0.5% pure.
So even if we educate our town, because the Sanipro is servicing a greater number of communities, it's not gonna make a difference. It's really gonna be a much larger scale.
Yes, it's not just us, it's also North Castle and other communities that they service, that's correct. So they've entirely banned 24 materials that they used to take. And now, it's much more difficult, those materials are gonna wind up in the incinerator.
So we have
But-
to stop recycling the 24 things that we used to be able to recycle.
Which are you on the list of
Which,
those?
I have the list, I do. And here is, this is something
Glass
that.
bottles and jars?
Wait, these are things that are acceptable.
Oh.
Wow.
This is a list.
yeah.
This is a list that Michael at the Recycling Center actually put together from a different list that I will show you that Sanipro gave me. But this is a lot more meaningful in terms of what counts.
I'd rather
Here
see
you
what
see the
doesn't.
recyclable plastic and glass, all must be clean and rinsed.
Yep.
Doesn't have to go through the dishwasher. But plastic bottles without caps and recycling numbers 1 to 6. You wouldn't believe how many people still put styrofoam and plastic bags in the single stream totes. At their homes and down at the recycling center.
So styrofoam.
And there's 6 signs down there, no
styrofoam-
plastic bags.
So styrofoam
can't
just
be
gets incinerated?
recycled.
Yeah.
So you still-
Yeah, it's too lightweight and bulky.
No,
It
never
just
was.
makes no economic sense.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, I have
Also,
copies of, I have the thing, you can make copies of the list, we don't have to sit here and go down the whole thing.
He's responsible.
But, and then, please see other sites for the non-acceptable. So here are the new no's. You know, and these are things that in the past we said we could. God bless you.
Thank you.
Oh, prescription and medicine?
Paper towel.
Or not? I did
Right.
not
Really, I
know.
always
Was
do
it
my
paper course?
prescription.
Right.
Really?
And the reason is,
Oh my god.
Paper course.
because it's neither paper nor is it cardboard.
Really?
It's
I thought it's
chipboard.
like that every
It's
pizza
chipboard.
box.
No pizza boxes?
I know.
No, because they have too much
Pizza
grease.
Pizza boxes, 99% of
clean
the
them.
time, they're dirty, they've got grease in them.
Yeah.
And so it's easier just to say, no pizza
Wait,
boxes.
no milk cartons?
Correct, because they're lined, they're coated.
I really thought they weren't
Please take
recycled, yeah, because they won't do it anymore.
Those are
So
one of the
yes, you're
24 they
right.
won't take anymore.
But I didn't
What
know
about cardboard
We gotta
egg
get this
cartons?
out, Dick, this has to be,
Yes.
Why won't they take cardboard
This is
egg cartons?
alarming.
Here is, you can make copies for the,
Yeah,
everybody.
really, no cardboard egg cartons?
Well, I said we should have a
Because,
dedicated
again,
newsletter.
I did not know that, and I have to tell you, toilet paper, of course,
They were
I
allowed,
make the.
They
We
were.
need to get the
They
high
were
school
allowed,
kids to get
but
the
now they are no longer allowed again
Yeah.
because cardboard egg cartons are neither paper nor cardboard. They're like a chipboard, they're ground
Don't
up
they just
material.
grind them all up anyway?
Well, the problem is it's been ground up too many times. I'm in the printing business, and 15 years ago already, I was on the Direct Marketing Association's Environmental Committee. And so I learned a lot about recycled paper, because that was the big thing, everybody has to use recycled paper and everything. And, a fiber of paper is like a little Christmas tree, and it's got all those little branches on it, and when you make paper, they interlock. Well, the more times you recycle it, the more you're shaving off those branches of the tree, and then pretty soon they can't interlock anymore, there's nothing to grab onto. And so
did not know
chipboard,
this.
egg cartons, things of that nature are just been recycled so many times that they just, if you put them in water, they'll dissolve.
Yeah.
Nick, kinda like your
Can
joke.
we put them in our compost?
One of the things that we're asking the board to do tonight is approve a sticker.
I'll get to that.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
good.
So this is the list, the way the list came
Recycling
from
this
Santa
morning.
Pro, on a spreadsheet, this is the way they gave us the list.
Okay, then you may have to improve that.
That list might
Can
be
you make that font a
slightly
little
too
bit
small for
Yeah,
us.
well, it was a very big
Gotta come with glasses.
piece of paper, yeah. So, we on the on the Sustainability Advisory Board, one of the ladies put together a whole bunch of things that look like this.
The pictures.
With the items,
That's good
the
with the
pictures,
That's fabulous.
right? A really nice thing, and then we also we added to this already things like, you can put this in the scrap metal bin down at the recycling center, depending upon what the items are.
By the way, I give my hangers back to the dry cleaner.
I do
I
too,
do
and
too.
it
They don't
says
want
that.
them.
Yeah, they
don't want-
do.
no,
They
don't.
always
We have
charge
friends
you.
that
No,
always
we
say
have
they
to
don't.
take 'em.
They take them, they don't want them.
What are they doing?
How many
Ours
hangers
always
do
take
they
them, they
need?
reuse them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but I'm saying, why wouldn't they? Mine's always
Play
heavy.
Maya, why would
As long as they take it, I don't
Bring
know.
the scrap metal bin at the recycling center, because they can generally, or the other thing then we've added in here, that you can take it back to the dry cleaner.
Okay, good. Aluminum cans, 100%.
So-
I'm sure your boss is-
The other idea, after sitting down with the folks at Sani Pro, they gave me all these different do's and don'ts and everything else, and we said, we've gotta distill this down. Because this whole big list of things, we've gotta find a way to distill it down so that it's much more easily understandable. So,
You don't have to make it, still, you have to make it
That can't
small,
be
so I
it.
can't read it.
Yeah, they gotta make it smaller.
Yeah, it fits on the thumb.
alright, so I came up with the idea of a label like this, which is 3.5 by 5, and I will give these out to you.
They're actually in your packets as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And out.
But
And,
this is not just a Newcastle problem, right? Like,
I beg pardon?
this is not just Newcastle, right?
Oh, no,
They
this is not
must be
just
doing
Newcastle.
this with every town.
Correct.
My husband's gonna love
Okay,
it.
so this 3.5 by 5 or 5.5 sticker, I got Sani Pro to say they would pay for them. Because they're the ones who are losing money when the loads are no good, right?
Well, for
So
now.
Dick, when you say when in doubt, throw it out, you're essentially saying,
Don't
Don't-
recycle.
Do
right,
not
Garbage.
recycle it.
right, right.
Do you know-
It's a dangerous message.
You know,
I mean,
that,
I know, but it's not clear really.
the Hells Angels have a saying, and I
don't
know this
mean
because I
to.
prosecuted a guy,
Yeah.
went to prison for 10 years.
It's almost
That
like it used to
When in
be.
doubt, knock them out.
When in
Oh,
doubt, recycle.
interesting.
So
type of
this,
thing.
we can maybe jump on the Hells Angels?
Yeah.
I'm just worried that
A little
the
graphic of the Hells
motorcycles
Angels
come
down there, right?
and then nobody does it at all.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely will have a lot less volume and a
Yeah.
lot more garbage we're gonna be paying for at $65 or so a ton. Okay? So the Sanipro's drivers will distribute these so that but now they put the OOP stickers. When they collect the recyclables, everybody one day is gonna get, during 1 week is gonna get this new sticker stuck onto their recycling container. So that's a way to get the
Does
message.
it make
right there.
sense to go back
So,
to
like,
dual
not a
stream
label.
recycling?
It might. It
So,
might.
like,
But even
newspapers
then,
aren't
it's
getting
newspaper
contaminated.
cardboard and then the other one for glass and bottles and cans, not all glass. You know, the other day, my wife had a glass vase that came, with a bunch of flowers, and she would put that in the recycling container. I said, nope, not this one. It has to be something that comes from your kitchen, like a glass jar, not a vase.
It might-
Not a window pane. People throw window panes and stuff in there because they're glass.
It might have to be more than dual stream, it might be 3 or 4 stream.
Yeah, well, it can be single stream, but it's gotta be
I'm
clean.
just really worried that people are gonna say, first you wouldn't take the plastic bags anymore, and now all my
they
recycling
will
is
say
loose,
that.
and now you're telling me that I've got all these complicated rules. This is too much for me, forget it, I'm just gonna throw everything in the trash can.
And they might.
But the reality is that
I mean,
in
most
2 years,
people
that's what we're gonna
won't.
end up doing anyway if they won't take our recycling.
Yeah, because when we have a new contract, it's gonna be a big problem. So we wanna try to get people ready for it now. So we wanna condense it. So,
No, maybe you should figure this out.
anyway, we came up with these sticker idea that Sanipro will pay for and distribute. But the idea was to condense the message. So this is what I first came up with. Okay, and I also put on here that you can reduce the amount of garbage by composting your kitchen waste.
Okay.
So the first, what we did is we said, Steve, who's very cautious and conventional, said, Dick, we can't just put it out there, let's get the reaction of citizens and see what they have to say. So we took it to the farmer's market on Saturday, and we're gonna do it again this Saturday, and these were the comments that we got. Use bullets, not numbers. What are tubes? Example of mixed materials.
Yeah, I know.
Make glass or metal clearer. Use visuals. Which we got on that other thing.
Yeah, I like the.
What about a drinking glass? No, you can't throw a drinking glass in.
Put it in
Jars
your
with paper
refrigerator.
labels. Is item number 2 the
Wait,
same as
but
item
the
number 4?
drinking glass, actually, that's true. A drinking glass is generally in my cabinet.
That's true, but it's not a jar that you would, so maybe that has to be worded a different way,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, jars with paper labels. What do you have
So
to
here
do?
it says,
Do you have
what
to
would
label
you say,
them off?
clean glass only from food stuff and bottles? Maybe that's a better way to say it. And then he wrote, what about paper? Well, of course you can do paper. This is the things that you shouldn't do. Anyway, so we're gonna get more feedback on this, and we invite your feedback, of course, as well.
I feel like there must be somebody in town who's like a good sort of like UX design person who could like do something really great and creative with this. Cause the content is all right, but the points you've got there are good. And I think would show up if we were able to do, just do something that's a little more visual.
Yeah. Well, visual, that was one of the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get more comments this
Yeah.
Saturday,
Yeah.
and then if you have a good designer
No, I
in
don't,
town,
but we should be able to find them, right?
yeah, we should.
And I'll be honest with you, Dick, I mean, you do a ton of work, and I'm not loving the when in doubt, throw it out, I think it's a little
Yeah.
bit confusing.
Well, the idea is that if you're not sure, put it in the garbage.
No, but then it needs you to explain that, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and this is a small thing. So, but you said we're gonna send, you can send out an email blast, which we're gonna
Well,
have to
definitely,
do
yeah,
at the
yeah.
same time that we're putting the stickers out there.
But
I think we have to get this whole message out.
Right.
This is really
Right.
disturbing.
And I think the clearest is the one with all the pictures that,
Yeah.
that Kathy Schreiber put
Yeah,
together.
exactly.
Oh, no, Susie Novak put that together.
Just pictures with lines through it, that
You
says
know what
like,
would also
no.
be cool is if there's like alternative products you could suggest too. Like, like maybe if you can't recycle the toilet paper tubes anymore, maybe people should buy those ones that they make that don't have a tube.
Have it too.
Or stop going to the bathroom.
That'll work too.
Another
Stop
great
washing
idea.
it.
The tubeless ones aren't so good at trying.
Let's see, the craft projects.
They don't hold the shape, that's the thing. You need
Back
you
to
to.
Paul.
Well,
So that's the situation and where
So
we're
we're not
at.
gonna go with this is a work in progress.
This is a
And-
work in progress.
Okay, great.
And, but that's where we are with it. The situation is really quite critical. As you point out, because the next contract comes around, it's gonna be very strict, and they might say, we're not gonna do single stream anymore.
Yep.
We don't know yet what that's gonna be, but it's not gonna be
When
great.
does this happen?
And the problem is,
2 more years on the contract?
yeah,
You would just-
and the
That's not
problem
even,
is.
that's not even the point, the
Maybe
point is,
things will be
even
back
if
to
we can take
normal
it, it's going nowhere now,
I know, but
So we're just
but the
moving it out of our
huge-
town to get burned somewhere
But the huge cost to
else.
the town is at least 200.
100%, but the issue, bigger issue environment, it makes no difference, right? Because it's
I'm sorry, say that again?
a
Unless
bigger
there's some
issue
sort
of
of provision
environment,
in
it
the
doesn't matter, we
contract
can
that would
recycle
let
because
them
we're
out
not really
if there's a
recycling.
major
Correct.
It's just gonna get
market
burned
shift.
out of our site.
Correct.
I have to look at it,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think there was, because
In
this
my-
was
in
a
my
project for
opinion,
us,
we
we
should-
were doing
The graphic should
fabulously
be
well.
a visual, like Ivy mentioned, and maybe like, we have like 8 of the most popular things that like we can't, you know, eight of the most popular things that we want people to stop throwing in the recycle bin. Instead of a long list of like 20 things, basically like the biggest
Plastic
eight.
bag is
Or,
very
offended.
or we can
Yeah.
be just very clear about the 8 things that we absolutely positively want people to recycle and leave it at that. And if it turns out that some things that
that's
could
a
be
good idea.
recycled go
That-
in the
that is a good
garbage,
idea.
it's better than the other way around, because
Right,
that's
just
almost
list the things, that
everything.
these are the things you can now recycle.
Right,
Yeah,
that-
well, that's
maybe-
it,
that
like,
may
if,
be
you
better.
know, you
That
definitely
might be better.
positively want the cans, that should
Right,
be, you
that
know,
might-
one-
that's
number
probably
one
better.
on it,
Yeah.
just.
'Cause we
That's a
gotta-
good idea.
And if there,
Bottles,
and I
no
think I'd
tops.
put like a little asterisk on there, if there are things that people generally do recycle that we now no longer want them to, if it's 1 or 2 highlight things, say please no longer recycle.
Plastic toys.
Yeah, I mean, things that I'm like pizza boxes, I'm like, you know,
Yeah,
like,
that's a big one, like no longer put a
Yeah,
pizza
it's a
box
big
in there, like that's a big one.
Nick just had a great idea, which is like a 1-minute or a 45-second video of literally opening up, you know, like the table that used to
Oh,
have it,
that's a
like
good
community
idea.
day, where can you recycle, can't recycle, open up somebody's recycling
do a
bag or
Facebook
bin.
Bob said that to make a video already
Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but-
because then we would email it around,
Yeah.
everybody would watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they could even have them with,
We could do little quizzes
like,
for people
characters.
and, you know, give little composting kits as a reward.
they have like characters that you can do it, you know, like there are companies out there, you can do a little character like holding up a can. Does it go in this one or this one, you know, like it's like
Yeah,
a fun
you know, you
animated
make it
video.
cute.
Make it a Nerf Day quiz.
I think
Not
it
for
should just be
nothing,
Rob.
I see potential for a magnet, Rob.
The problem is,
But is it
complicated.
recyclable?
No.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a gigantic magnet.
And then just a quick update on the composting program. We've been composting, we started selling kits on 29th of May, which was National Learn to Compost Day.
Yay.
And so we've had it collected now last Wednesday and today it'll be collected. And we had 3 toters that we borrowed from Sanipro because the ones we ordered had not come in yet. And the first week, the 3 toters were full and Mike had to take one of the blue recycling single stream containers and line it and use that. And the same thing happened again this week. So he's estimating with the weight typically of a toter like that, that we already composted about 1,000 pounds each week.
Wow.
We sold about 150 of the
Oh, that's
300 kits
great.
so far
Wow.
between the farmers market and the recycling center, people coming in and buying them. And the response of people at the farmers market, where I've been both weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever, has been very enthusiastic
Oh, fabulous.
from the people
So
who
can I
buy.
ask you a question?
Yeah,
So I was at my book club last week and
You were
everyone
where?
talked at my book club.
yeah,
And we were talking about the composting and I was telling everyone they should go get the
The kits,
toters,
yeah.
the kits. But everyone wanted to know if there was a way they could then purchase back the compost or take it back to use in their own gardens.
right.
Like no one wants to get rid of it.
Okay, so we give free compost in town.
Yeah.
It's just not the same compost.
Right.
Either
the
that or you
stuff
could
that
do
we
an
do-
outdoor compost, like in your backyard.
Well, right, but that's not what we're doing
Not
here.
No, that
whole
go, you know,
other
that right
thing.
now, that's going up to Ulster County and it's being
Right.
sold commercially, the compost that they make.
Mhm.
However, there's a fellow, I can't think of his name right now, but I met him in various Westchester events. He was working at the Greenberg Nature Center. Braden is his name, his first name. And before he came here to work for Westchester, he was working for Tompkins County and set up a whole big recycling and composting program for Tompkins County. And he's now working with a company that is trying to set up a facility in Cortland. And they're waiting to get final approval from the Cortland Town Board. They've got their site, the neighbors apparently have all said okay. And that would be wonderful, because then we'd just be transporting a very short distance, and then it might also
Oh, and they
be-
would take ours?
Then it could
Yeah.
come back.
Oh, they would take as many as they could get, that's the whole point.
Great.
And there might be, part of his plan might also be then to be able to sell it back to
Can't
the
we build one
communities.
here?
We have a composting facility here, a state licensed composting facility, that's where all the leaves that are collected in your bags and such go.
Yeah.
But the neighbors around there, when it was put in,
Chestnut Oaks, very,
I'm sorry?
Chestnut Oaks, you get the whiff.
Yeah,
Chestnut Oaks?
The smell.
It's on Route 134.
We don't have any other town-owned land that we could use?
Anyway, the liens or whatever you call it, the right of way for the getting to that property.
Yeah.
Only town trucks can go in there,
Oh,
and
and this
no
is-
food waste, only the greens.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is,
Yeah.
It's off Route 134.
I can't remember the name. Because
And it's
of the-
huge, and it's wonderful, they have 7 windrows and they turn them all the time and
Yeah,
everything, and
yeah,
that's where
yeah.
they make all the compost and mulch, not the
Yeah,
mulch, the
but
compost.
there's limitations on that property.
Yeah.
How can that ever be addressed, Nick? Removing limitations to allow for additional composting and recycling?
Within the town?
Right, with the.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, it's a
think
state
that-
licensed facility, we could do it, except the neighbors, you know, when it was set up, the neighbors, they signed something that, you know, the town wrote something that said we're not going to put any food in there, because we
If
don't
it's
want
an
neighbors
easement,
to coyote easement,
And we
thank
can't,
you.
if it'll void the easement, then you can't get to the facility.
Yeah, they have an easement, because you know, they don't want raccoons and coyotes and all that stuff. Bears hanging around there to get at the food. So, I guess they could build a really big fence, and go down with it, that would be expensive as
Okay,
well.
great, thank you, really appreciate this.
Alright, so work on
Thank you.
the sticker.
Yes, and one other point that Jerry is now in and out here before, he sent me an email the other day that it's ridiculous that we're trucking this stuff so far away and people are driving down to the recycling center with it. So I pulled up this report which I sent to him from the United States Composting Council and underlined this portion over here that says that the amount of CO2 that's being used by the vehicle driving is nothing compared to the amount of methane that's being saved by the stuff going into landfills.
Touche.
It's like a 300 to 1 savings or something like that. 36,000 kilograms for a 200-mile trip. It said the truck would have to drive back and forth from LA to New York City 7 times before the emissions outweighed the avoidance.
But
So-
if people have the capability to backyard compost for the things that they can backyard compost
Better.
for,
But I have to
it's
tell you,
better.
I do it, but I
Science.
stop now, because I just throw it all together into my
Don't do
bucket.
that, don't stop, because it is.
Then I
it
gotta
is
have
more
another
environmental
bucket.
I know, but you can do it.
No, I can't.
You're a very capable
Come on,
person.
get 2 buckets.
So that's the story.
Perfect, do you wanna email that to me?
Sure.
Perfect.
And then at some point when you're ready, we'll do the blast, the newsletter blast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, we'll get
we're
more
gonna figure out
comments
what
on
it looks
the
like.
stickers.
It's awful.
But then I'm talking
And then,
about the.
but I like your points about just putting, this is the 8 things that you can do.
Yeah,
Right.
I
And the
just think
few
keep it
things
simple.
that are very common that we can't do,
Right.
like pizza boxes.
Right.
Bottle caps.
Yeah.
Bottle
Stuff like
caps.
that, yeah,
Bottle
bottle
caps.
I think you guys could do skits,
Yep.
a little video.
Here's, this is,
Don't throw that pizza
okay, you know what, I'll send you Michael's list also.
Why, Ivy?
Okay, so, yeah, guys, we didn't get any comments on the electrical inspector local law, so
I'm
the-
shocked.
so far, the deadline for receipt is,
For what, I'm sorry, what are we talking about?
Thank you.
Inspector, good night,
Dick,
thank you so much, Dick.
Good night.
The deadline for receipt is actually Monday at noon. If there are any.
Can I recycle this?
If there are any,
Yes.
I can recycle it?
Yeah.
if there are any comments that we receive, then we'll consider them during, before the next town board meeting, otherwise we're gonna schedule that for a vote
comments.
for next Tuesday.
To
Okay.
screw with people.
It's
an outrage.
Parking ticket policy, we did a draft of it. What I'd like to know from the board is regarding scofflaws and our efforts to take and collect parking tickets. We were suggesting that we would take and compare the scofflaw list to the adult recreation participation list and see whether or not we would be able to bar someone from, an adult from participating in a recreation program if they had outstanding parking tickets. Do you want to extend
I
that to
think you
kids
should
and
go
camp?
across the board on everything with parking tickets, because it's a lot of money, it's easy to pay, we're not talking,
No,
for
no,
the
I'm
most
with
part, real dollars, 25, 50, 100, take responsibility.
So tell me when you say across the board, do you mean kids programs as
Family.
well?
I think anything, and that's just there's no reason why someone can't come to court, and if it needs to be dismissed or there's a hardship, the prosecutor can deal with it accordingly, but you need to respond. I think it's just that simple. And if you're gonna be upset that because you didn't pay your ticket, you prevented from doing something, tell them to deal with your ticket. And if you didn't know you had a ticket, then fine, we'll address it, and as long as you have notice before it comes time, we should make it clear.
So how are you gonna figure it out? You're gonna associate them based on the parent's name on the application for the
An address?
programming?
An address?
And what about senior programming? Would you go the other way?
I think it's anybody, and I think what you do also, you just, if there's a way to just, instead of making them come in and deal with it, levy the fee onto the, you know, levy the fee onto the bill, or whatever you're gonna.
It's gotta go to the separate check to the court.
Oh, it can't be. So
What's
make
up
people
with
come
these
in.
adult softball players?
Well, it's only four
Like,
of
I
them,
know
but
for
still.
the, I know for like the PTA, which is not the
That's a lot
town,
of
obviously,
players,
though.
but if you wanna register your
Three different
kid
leagues.
for a sport,
Yes.
for instance,
And you
and you haven't
paid
paid your PTA dues, you have to pay to register for the sport, and then they add on the PTA dues.
But
So it
Nick's
all
saying
gets
it's a
paid.
different.
But maybe there's a way to do it if they're paying by credit card or something that gets funneled
Oh,
to two different accounts or something.
PTA is rolling out a new system next year for this, actually. I just heard about it the other day.
I think everything's
No,
on
but
the
the point
table.
is, if they wanna register for like a rec course,
Right,
and you
maybe we should
say,
expand
wait, you have an
the rules so
outstanding
we can do
parking
that.
ticket, here's the rec course price, here's the parking ticket, they put in a credit
Just
card, it
couple it
gets
together.
funneled to the two different entities.
Alright, so we'll expand
the rec
this.
system just needs to run a
I
verification
think if anyone gets bent out of
against
shape
the,
about it, the response is just
Right.
pay your outstanding parking ticket.
Okay.
It is what it is.
No, no.
Pay it or go to court and say
Yeah, or
why.
fight it.
Yeah, say why it's not. Okay, but
No,
then
that's a
you
really
just-
good idea though,
just
just to
respond.
make it
Yeah,
possible for
address
them
it.
to do it like just like
Just
that.
take care of
Efficiency.
everything.
Yeah, so that, you know, ask the
We just have to figure out a way to integrate it.
Yeah, just whoever built the community pass system, just ask them if they can add a verification that hits your parking ticket system.
It doesn't, because the court system is SEI and it's proprietary. And we,
So then just download a spreadsheet
Yeah,
that has
that's what
the-
we would
yeah,
do, and
yeah,
they have to
yeah.
check
We
it
do
off.
it manually and then we check
Well, we
names
have
and
it, well,
addresses.
ours is actually integrated, but the rec would be a little
But-
bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
like for the software,
How many
But we
and
can do it.
stuff, yeah.
They register online for rec programs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we
you
can
can,
do
you
it.
can build it, they should be able to build it, whoever.
But I presume the registration still gets,
It would get processed, it's just that the child would be blocked. So in other words, we'd hold the payment and we would say, it's come to our attention that, you know, we have to.
You'll get people
No,
paying.
no, you wanna be able to run that verification in real time, so that
Right.
they can't even
I'm happy to
submit their.
put you in touch with SEI, it's taken us 3 years to try to do it for the parking permit.
SEI is who? They're.
Is
Court
New York
system.
State's court system.
No, I'm talking about the rec department's system.
so the
Yes, but it
name-
has to integrate with the court, otherwise you can't check for a ticket.
You could just, instead of integrating with the court, you could just have a
manual list?
have an access database, you have a download,
Like a
so that you're.
And I think
yeah.
the first year or two will be difficult, the first year, because once this goes into effect and people realize that, the workload is gonna drop precipitously. Nice word, by the way.
Alright,
Maybe,
we're,
yeah.
okay,
Or
Maybe,
maybe,
no, it is a
well,
nice
maybe
word.
these people aren't
Oh, you're not challenging
in
my
these
word?
programs.
Well,
Precipitously?
Yeah, that's a good word. I think, you know, you don't like it.
Oh, sure.
alright, I will see what we can do about integration.
Don't be parsimonious with your praise.
Okay, travel reimbursement policy, our simple thing went to a little bit bigger,
I
but-
noticed that,
But I have
you
to
went
say-
to the Rolls Royce of travel policies.
Because what we did was we passed it through our controller's office to make it so that there wouldn't,
So nobody can.
yeah, and that way it's crystal clear, all of this gets posted on our website, it's on the public part of the portal. An employee can just look at it, we don't have that many people who travel, and that's actually part of the problem, is that they don't travel often.
Yeah.
But, you know, they need to give us itemized bills, they can't be sharing stuff, there's no liquor,
I think
there's
it's
just.
great, I thought it was great.
Okay, good. So we're gonna put on
Speaking
for
about the
approval next time.
controller's office, is totally not on the agenda. Did you talk to Rob Deary about doing the security deposits through credit cards? For Chapac?
No, but he's not gonna have a problem with that.
Okay,
So,
good, I'm
I
gonna bring
mean,
it up tomorrow.
okay, yeah, we should
Okay.
definitely do that. He would be thrilled with it.
Okay.
Okay, I will mention it to him. Credit card. Okay, sorry, that was reimbursement policy, we're good with that. So, we got actually written authorization from the county to take and, put holes in the, train trestle, the old train trestle that goes over Route 100 in Millwood, that gosh awful looking thing. So we're going to take and put up the one we have currently and affix it properly So we don't have to worry about wires and people cutting, like strings and people cutting down. We had one that was from Millwood 200.
Well, this is a little before I was
Oh,
time,
I'm
but
sorry.
basically, what happens is we talked about the railroad trestle, you guys
Yeah,
know what it is,
railroad, yeah.
and
I actually
Route
don't.
100.
Where?
I actually have a picture of it.
It's before Travelers Rest, or right
I'll
after
show you a
Travelers
picture.
Rest. It's
Oh, wait.
rusted, it's awful. The
Oh,
county
wait,
ought to paint
here's a
it.
picture of my puppy.
Do we get an?
Oh, this is the one
Here's a
if you're
picture.
on the North
Is this
County
number
Trailway.
4?
No, this is
Yes.
this
Yeah,
picture
okay.
that was
It's been on the
this is
North
like
County.
Oh,
6
sorry.
months ago.
So it's all
Oh,
rusted, it's
dog.
awful. The county is
But
not
it's
gonna get
not
around to
passing
painting
it.
it anytime soon. Millwood Task,
I'll show you the
Millwood West End Advisory Board and
It's easier if you
residents
look
in
at
general
all
have
your
been
pictures and like.
complaining about how awful
You're
it
right.
looks.
Like,
Yeah.
You're right.
Not exactly
Not
what
enough
we
photos.
need.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
So it was our thought
we go.
initially that we were gonna take the Millwood 200 banner
Yeah.
and mount it, but the problem is that we had to
Beautiful.
actually
Yeah,
put
no.
holes in order to attach it properly, and we didn't have the county's permission.
That's
So we were gonna
character,
put
I
it
kinda
up
like
with
it.
with ropes and stuff like that, and we were afraid that somebody would come along,
Feel like I'm in
you
Stand
know,
By Me.
the ropes would get cut, it would end up being a road hazard and all sorts of
Yeah,
liabilities. So
yeah.
we sort of walked away from it, but we've gotten written confirmation from the county it's perfectly okay for us to affix it properly with like, you know, bolts and putting holes in it and doing what we need to do. So we're gonna put up the
It's not gonna
Millwood
collapse.
200.
It's not gonna collapse.
No, it's
Put
just-
a bolt in it, the whole thing's gonna fall down.
Then they have more trouble than.
We're purchasing another banner,
We wanted to purchase one from the other side that said welcome to Millwood, a nice one.
but not Millwood 200.
Well, we wanted to put the
No,
Millwood
that
200 up on the
happened
one
Right,
like
you're-
that was
but
leaving.
You're putting that up on one side
There's two
though.
sides.
There's
Yeah.
two sides to it, so just.
The
It has a
Millwood-
longer use, a greater
Yeah.
use.
The Millwood 200 banner was, I mean, if anybody ever noticed it on the direct,
I did.
the fence.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying it was gigantic.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of white on the sides. And the
So we had to
reason
tie
is
it.
because it was, the dimensions was, it was supposed to be on the train trestle. And the visible part would be the part that you would like see along the road, but the white part was gonna be like behind the trees that's, you know, spread out, so then it was connected, it was like sort of the way it was gonna work. But it was never hung up on the trestle because of, we were dealing with the prior administration. And there was issues about how it was gonna be affixed to it, and
Yeah,
Right.
it was an issue.
so we're sort of
Pass me that.
revisiting it
What?
with the
This?
administration.
Sorry.
Okay, just because goals and objectives are in there, I hope everybody review them.
No, because it wasn't in the packet that you sent out on
No,
Friday.
but that's all right.
What, was I gonna review it right now?
No, it's fine.
We'll take it over
Look at it for next time, we'll come back on in July and go through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have authorization to release reimbursement funds. So when Homeland Towers did their initial tower on the Alfredo property, the neighbors were given some funding for mitigation plantings. And they had to prove to us that they actually spent the money and did the plantings. 2 individuals have done that, 2 families have done it, and so we're asking for just a release of those funds so the homeowners can be reimbursed.
Has that tower been turned on?
I have no idea. No, I don't know.
There's no cell phone service on that road.
Yeah, I don't know what they've done with it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, okay, and last but not least, I think, is the seeker for the town hall playground and basketball court. So we have repositioned the basketball court, so we are maintaining that hill between the commuter parking lot and the town hall parking lot. It's being erected completely on paved portion of the parking lot right now, yes.
Could you, I looked at this, I thought it was very pretty, but I couldn't remember what the change, like I didn't see what the change was.
So the hill is still there.
This hill.
Right, so the hill remains, and all we've done is we put it where the parking lot is currently.
Instead of it was over here? Like I don't remember where it was before.
It was shifted this way, and
Right.
part of the triangle commuter
On the
parking
other
lot, the
side.
spots was taken away.
Got it.
So we're actually losing a decent amount of parking in front, but what we'll end up doing is putting a double row in the front of town hall.
And you can drive through here?
Yeah, what we thought we were gonna do here is just put town vehicles as a storage spot.
Oh, I
so
see.
that we wouldn't lose it altogether.
This is really narrow
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just for
Drive-through.
storing our
It's narrow
cars there,
now.
or the cert van, or police vehicles, or things like that.
Yeah, but you
And
have
that's
to
why
go
it's-
turn around back
Yeah, that's
there.
why it sort of has a gate there.
Yeah, oh, okay.
So
Could
we're
it be
not really gonna be
connected?
letting people do it, but the problem is that there's a water main that runs here, so we had to maintain 17 feet. That's why we couldn't push it further down.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So we didn't wanna, heaven forbid, there's a water main break, we didn't want the equipment to destroy our basketball court. Okay, so we actually are going to need a resolution to approve the modified, the reasons for supporting the secret determination of a negative declaration for the modified town hall playground and basketball court. Once the town board approves this, the ERB is going to issue the environmental permits at their next meeting, and then we'll be able to secure the funding from the state for this, because they're just waiting for the environmental permit to be.
Why didn't we put either the basketball court or the playground in front of town hall?
Because it's actually not our property.
And there's the issue with, I thought was also with the wires.
The parking lot here, this isn't our property?
It's mostly county property.
Oh.
It comes all the way down, so we're just sort of telling them very loudly that we're parking lot area. That whole grassy area's got a ton of utilities running through it, so we wouldn't be able to do any footings.
That's too bad, because it really would be so much nicer to have the playground up here.
Yeah.
So then when the kids are on the rec field, you have
Yeah, you
the
can sort of see
playground,
it.
not have to walk through the
Yep.
parking lot.
So,
Oh.
there's a resolution, and then we just have to talk about dates for the summer before we adjourn.
I move to adopt the reasons supporting the secret determination of a negative declaration for the modified town hall playground and basketball court, and reaffirm the town board's negative declaration previously adopted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's just talk about dates for the summer. Right now, I've got a July.
Rob, you and I are going out next week.
For what?
Dates for the summer. Sorry.
I got it.
You got it?
That was
Sorry.
Yeah.
So our
I
next
didn't like my
meeting-
beaver joke, but that one is.
Okay. So next meeting is Tuesday, June 16th, June 26th, I'm
26th,
alright. I won't be here, sorry guys. July is July 17th and July 24th. Do those dates still work
Wait,
for the
July
board?
what?
I won't be here the 24th.
I can't come on the 17th.
17th and 24th.
I won't be here the
Well,
24th.
Okay, do I have a quorum though?
I'll be here.
I'll be here the 17th and 24th.
Okay, so
So you do
Lisa, you're out on the 24th and Ivy, you're
But-
out
so we'll have a
on the
quorum
17th.
no matter what. We'll have
Let's hope
three,
that should be
at
okay,
least.
as long as we have
I'll-
three. And
But I mean,
then,
if we didn't have it on 24th, that'd be okay too.
I'm sorry, our last,
Yeah,
Well,
I have
because I
something
have-
the 24th I'd really like to
I'd
do.
like to
so
go
do you wanna just leave, do you wanna just leave one meeting?
do we have a meeting on the 26th or 27th, I'm sorry? Of June.
24th.
26th, the Tuesday, it's next Tuesday.
Okay.
If you wanna just have the one meeting on the 17th, we can do that. I'm just gonna need 3 members at some point in August that are gonna be able to approve payment of claims.
All of August.
What about like a morning meeting maybe in the summer at some
Sure,
point?
do
Like
it,
maybe
whatever,
on the-
whatever works for you guys.
Like Friday?
Mix things around.
Yeah, sure.
Mix it up
Yeah.
a bit.
Friday
Yeah, on a
morning,
Friday,
morning,
that would be
we're-
good.
Yeah.
A little golf after?
Well, tell me what
Oh,
works for you guys.
Get
What do you
up
wanna
there
do?
for
Well, I'm
race.
around, but I'm
Summer
just,
leaf
that
blowers.
24th, I'd like to go to Ben Lieberman's golf outing.
Okay, so let's not do the 24th, so is
Well, it's
17th
that night,
okay?
It's a dinner.
Yeah,
At Trump,
works
it's at
for
Trump's.
me.
Okay, I know, Ivy, you can't make it, but.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll go to the golf.
It's
So
a
let's
work
just,
trip.
Are
so
you
let's
off?
just do the
Yeah.
let's do the 17th, we'll do a work session, town board meeting 1.
Okay. So no 24th.
Yep, no 24th.
We're bang,
We
bang.
can do this. Let's just move it.
Okay.
You're gonna cost me money now.
Hey,
But what are we gonna move that to? We're gonna move that to Friday?
so what Friday would you move it to? Could you move it to like the 13th? Would that be alright?
Friday 13th.
But then you're doing the 14th and the 17th? is
July
No,
or
no, no,
August,
no,
probably
no,
not.
no, sorry, I was gonna do one.
I'm
for you.
away from the 5th to the 13th of July.
What about July 27th?
that? Yeah, we could do that. I can't do that.
What, do we have 3 people
Well,
that can do that?
what would it-
What about the
Thursday.
26th?
I can do the 27th.
I could do the 26th also.
27th is generally better, the Friday's generally
Friday's
better,
easier.
same thing.
Do we need another one in July?
No, we could just do the one on the 17th, but then let's turn to August then and see what can we muster?
think
I
I'm
know the
sorry.
front
I'm here all of August.
I really I'm going away at some point, but I don't know when.
So let's do this, let's do that, listen, let's do the 27th, let's tentatively put on the 27th, as we get closer, we need to change it, we have ample time to say we're gonna change it.
In July.
July, that's
July,
right.
but you don't, okay, I mean,
We
we
don't
don't
need
necessarily need that
She
there.
needs an
I
August
mean, you're gonna need
one for payment of
August.
claims.
So I need like August 3rd, and I'm gonna need one towards the end of August.
I can do August, whenever you need me in August, I can.
Okay, so Lisa's available all of
So,
August.
Yeah.
I have no idea, I have to ask my
Okay.
wife what our plans are, I
I'm
simply
gone the
don't
week
know.
of the week of the 12th and the week of the 19th.
I'll let you know by
Of
next
August?
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Ivy
if
out,
not sooner.
Ivy out. And Rob, you're just not sure.
Right, I'm trying to find out right now, but.
On a Tuesday, I'm free any August, any day in August.
Okay,
If it's like a Friday,
Lisa available Tuesdays.
I can't guarantee Friday.
Ay.
Go for like a long weekend or something.
I'm sorry, what was it?
No, I was just saying Fridays, like, long,
I know,
going a
people go
long
away.
weekend or
Yeah.
something.
Right, that
But
was
I'm
my-
free any Tuesday.
Yeah, why don't we do that meeting on the 27th in the morning? Or not, was it the 27th you're talking about? Assuming we
No,
need
we're
one in
not
July,
doing that
we're
in
talking about
July.
August now, we're talking about
Right,
August.
August.
So, let's-
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
guys, can you just send me your schedules and I will figure out a date for August? Because I need to let Carrie know so that we can take and do, she can have somebody in there to manage, okay? Alright.
Dope.
Okay, so our next town board meeting is Tuesday, it's just gonna have those approval of that. Do you think we need an executive session for any reason? We have two quick interviews, and that would really be about it next week for just additional chat line people that are interested.
Okay.
Alright, we're good?
Motion
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I make a motion to go back into.
Okay, I'm sorry, there are just like five quick
Second.
administrative
Aye,
items.
roll aye.
Okay.
Aye.
One is authorization to use town property, the Newcastle Historical Society.
Absolutely.
Okay,
What do
and
they
the
wanna
Audubon
do again?
Society.
I forget.
No, they're gonna be doing a cute little,
Should we consider contributing
They're
at all
doing
to
a
them to
fundraiser at
assist
the
them?
train station.
well, we
Financially?
are, so
Yeah,
there are certain
jazz
things that
thing,
we
yeah,
can,
yeah, yeah.
that so this is their plan, we're gonna be their
Great idea.
their
Yeah, that's a
first
great
idea
idea.
is the Sunday after Community Day, so they're going to be what do you call them, delineators that are already left from the day before, there's going to be our stage,
Stage
if
they
that's
can
something
still
that they
use,
wanna
yeah.
take and use, garbage cans, things of that nature, are gonna be all out and about. Their rain date is going to be the following week, we can make all that same stuff available to them, we have a sound system, it isn't the greatest in the world, so I'm gonna leave that up to you as to whether or not you want it or not. But yeah, whatever we can assist with, that'll be great,
Okay.
but it looks like it's gonna be fabulous, so
Do they need any
Sounds good.
dollars? I mean, not that I'd love to give away town money, but it seems to be a very valuable asset for the community, a great event. Do they need, where are they getting?
I don't know that.
Plenty
And we're all
of,
benefiting.
sponsors.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. It'll be good.
Yeah,
It'll be really fun, actually.
yeah, it
Yeah, I
should be
think it's
fabulous.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Audubon Society wants to use our parking lot for their seed sale, which they do every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
We're gonna, just authorization to award our water chemical bids, the lowest responsible bidders are included in the packet.
Yep.
Also, we need authorization to obtain bids for water maintenance materials, our chemicals and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're doing that today, now?
No,
No.
it's for next meeting, authorization to approve New York State DOT municipal snow and ice agreement, and an authorization to attend conference for our annual juvenile officers training conference, which doesn't mean we have juvenile officers, it means we have officers who are just.
Yes.
So are we voting on the use of the town property tonight?
No,
This
so
is all
those
for
are
the
going to
next
be
meeting.
for next meeting
Okay,
and approvals,
that's what I-
just wanna make sure that nobody had any questions or issues with them.
And were
Okay.
we supposed to, and next week we're gonna accept the resignation? Or were
Yes.
we supposed to
Mhm.
do that
Oh, I
tonight?
just
No,
got
no,
my
no.
calendar.
That's for next time.
I'm not here July 31st to August 5th.
Okay, hold that thought, okay, terrific.
I move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.